Okay, good morning. I think we're ready to get started. For those who don't know me, I'm Alicia Nolan. I'm fairly new to Schools Plus. It's been a pleasure to be with the program since October. And I have the honor of introducing Scott this morning, Scott Janssen. Scott is back by popular demand, as I understand it. And we're anxious to get on, so I'll summarize very quickly, but that Scott has a depth of practice as a clinical social worker, a master's prepared social worker, and 20 or more years in direct practice, mostly in the area of substance abuse, and with the former Capital Health District, and of course now the Nova Scotia Health Authority, and has switched his role, or morphed his role, I would say, to being an educator and trainer, both in private practice and still with the Nova Scotia Health Authority. And I think the official name is the Clinical Practice Educator. So he brings a wealth of experience and took a specific training in motivational interviewing. Was that through St. X, or that's your adult ed? That's another piece of work. This is the part I love the most about his bio, though. Scott resides in Dartmouth with his wife Joanne, but they have a dog named Rip who's not motivated. He's kind of like a cobbler whose children have no shoes.
Very much.
So I will turn it over to Scott.
Anybody here have a greyhound? Or know anybody has a greyhound? Laziest dogs in the world. Put it out there. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Janssen. It's very nice to be back today. This is going to be a brief talk on motivational interviewing, a way of engaging with people to help them develop an intrinsic motivation to make healthy attitudinal and behavioral changes. Before I get into it too much, Alicia, that was probably one of the best intros I had. You really look at the notes. I don't even remember my bio that long. Well done. Just show of hands, how many people were here last year? You're back again. Thank you for coming back. I appreciate that. So what I'm hoping, we have just about an hour and 15 minutes today. When I do a training for our staff, we take 2 days just for an introductory workshop, followed by about 6 months of individual and group supervision. Part of that is they have to submit actual recorded sessions, and they get feedback on it. We use a matrix to determine the question to reflection ratio. We do all that kind of stuff. And that gets into the starting gate, and then they can start to practice after that time. We have an hour and 15 minutes. So keeping that in mind, there are going to be some aspects that are going to be skipped over or glossed over. My hope is that this material becomes interesting enough that people on your own become curious enough about it to keep researching it and studying it. How many people, besides the ones who attended last year, have taken any kind of MI training or presentation or anything like that before? Okay. Good. One of the other things I'm hoping is going to happen today is this is an informal discussion. It's easy to talk in front of a group of people for an hour and 15 minutes, just read off the slides. We've got a table, I'm not going to say who. Already talked about how tired they are. You don't want to, I just threw you under the bus. You don't want to listen to me talk. Very brave, thank you. You don't want to listen to me talk for an hour and 15 minutes, so let's keep this informal. Let's talk about our challenges, successes. I have a sense that people already use a lot of the MI's, what we call motivational interviewing stance already. We're going to talk about that and how that's applied to your work going forward. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Great. The greater part of instruction is being reminded of things we already know. Plato. I always like to throw that one up first, because what we're going to talk about today, I don't expect anybody to fall off their chair in shock or surprise. But it's amazing how much I forget when there's somebody in front of me that's causing some frustration or strife or anxiety. I want them to do something, and they're digging on their heels. Has anyone here ever had the situation where you felt you were more motivated than the student to make some changes? There will be a series of dumb questions for the next hour and 15 minutes. That's just the first one. That's common. If you guys were a group of clinicians, and perhaps some of you are, that comes up all the time. I want it more than they do, and I get frustrated. And then that would get into this pattern of debating, persuading, trying to educate people to change, that sort of thing. And it gets in the way. People know this stuff in a nice, calm, relaxed setting like today. But if you put somebody in front of me that's getting on my last nerve, it's amazing how much I forget. So this is going to be about reminding people of stuff they probably already know. So you would think after a heart attack, Bill would be more motivated to eat right, exercise more, but they haven't changed. You would think after losing their family that they started addressing their problematic gambling problem, but they're still out there doing it. You would think after 2 driving while impaired, they start taking a taxi, but there they are behind the wheel. You would think. Here's the kicker. People don't act in a logical manner as much as we think we do. We're on top of the food chain for a reason. We've got big old brains and we use them. At the same time, I firmly believe that emotions trump logic when it comes to our decision making. What we know isn't the strongest variable. What we feel is. Motivational interviewing isn't about trying to teach somebody to change. It's about tapping into their emotional. That's what motivation is about. I'm not saying that education, information isn't important. It is. Give it at the right time. Before I turn on the key in the car, I have to make sure I've got gas in the tank. The gas is the motivation. I just made it up. Somebody write that down. So whenever I do a talk, I like to just review some guiding principles because we'll be referring back to these going forward. Healthy behaviors are abnormal behaviors. And don't think in terms of health just in physical health or emotional health. I'm talking about a way of being in the world that's productive and increases vitality. That's what I mean by health. Health is beyond just the physical and mental, emotional. It's also vocational, educational, spiritual. But healthy behaviors, which are derivatives of those underlying things, are abnormal behaviors. Anybody want to take a stab at why I would say they're abnormal? Well, I'm not doing all the work here today. Go ahead. Why would I say healthy behaviors are abnormal?
They don't come naturally.
It's true.
For some people.
They don't come naturally for some people. Okay? Yeah, I'm not saying that people don't have healthy behaviors. They certainly do. They are the abnormal. So healthy behaviors are abnormal. How many people are familiar with the pleasure-seeking principle? It's alive and well in all of us. I mean, it's there for a reason. It keeps us alive. And attached to that is the harm avoidance principle, which also keeps us alive. Human nature is, by definition, a pessimistic entity. We're pessimistic by nature for a very good reason. It's the reason I look both ways before I cross the street. I'm assuming there's a car coming. I just want to make sure I don't get hit. Our brains are hardwired that we avoid things that we perceive are going to cause us pain and discomfort. And our brains are hardwired to seek out those things that bring us satisfaction. Quicker, the better. Now, that fits in very well for unhealthy behaviors. Healthy behaviors are often based on delayed gratification. And if we're asking people to address changes in their lives, is change comfortable? No. What does the brain tell us to do when things are uncomfortable? Don't. So the only reason I bring this up is whether we work in healthcare, education, mix of the two, if we ever work with another human being, keep in mind that change is uncomfortable. We're asking people to do things that go against their very nature. People make changes when there's a perceived better outcome than the status quo. But until that happens, chances are they're not going to develop that intrinsic motivation for change. Healthy behaviors and abnormal behaviors. We're behind the 8 ball right from the beginning. People are influenced more by their own voice than by others. This is also a central principle. Have you ever gotten into a debate with one of your students? I mean, not a knuckle dragging down, get dirty down fight, but I was talking about a debate. You make an argument for change, and what happens? They make an argument for staying the same. At the end of that exchange, the persons who have the greatest influence on the student is themselves. People are influenced by their own voice much more than anybody else's. The reason I bring this up is oftentimes I try to convince people to change. I try to educate them or give them information or provide a logical template. How many people here have been on the receiving end of a yeah, but? To show of hands, how many people have been on the receiving end of a yeah, but?
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but. Are people clear that there's very little yes in the yeah, but? Yeah, but actually means no because. So if you're on the receiving end of a no because, and at the end of that exchange, whose voice has the greatest impact on them? Their own. All I've done, inadvertently, despite my good intentions, was allow them to keep themselves rooted in not changing. Now, people often get confused that oftentimes students, clients, patients, whoever I'm working with, they talk about, well, they do change if I tell them enough times. Yes, people do. But it's not because of an intrinsic desire to make a change. They have a strong desire to get me off their back. There's a difference. People will acquiesce. Do not confuse that with motivation to change. They're highly motivated to get me to shut up. It is not the same as being motivated to make a change. People are much more influenced by their sound of their own voice than anybody else's. My task is to set up a conversation in a way that they themselves make the argument for change. Behavior is driven not by health outcomes, but by social and psychological factors, and we talked about this already. That's just a long-winded way of saying behaviors are emotionally driven more than logically driven. You might remember this from last year, those of you who were here. I'm going to give you the same two scenarios, and let me know which one is more likely when it comes to me. When I come home from work after a hard day, option A. I come home, put my jacket on the banister, run upstairs, put on my gym clothes, run back downstairs to our basement, jump on our treadmill, run for 30 minutes, and cool down by enjoying a nice bowl of raw cauliflower. You don't even know what the second option is yet. People are already snickering. That hurts. Okay. Option 2. I come home after a hard day at work, I throw my jacket on the banister, I go to the cupboard, I grab a bag of Doritos, I sit on the couch, and I watch The Big Bang Theory. Which one's more likely?
Big Bang Theory.
You guys are so polite. I was doing this with my staff. Oh, it's B. Look at it, it's B. Yeah, most likely it's going to be option B. Is that because I don't know the benefits of exercise and healthy eating? I know that stuff. Most people past the age of 11 or 12 are pretty hip to this already. We're bombarded with those messages. It's not about lack of information. We know this. And yet, despite knowing this, I'm sorry?
I said we're just not motivated.
And here's the kicker. I'm incredibly motivated to sit on the couch and have a bag of Doritos. I'm not being facetious when I say that. We often line up people as either motivated or unmotivated. No. People are usually extremely motivated, just in a direction I don't want them to go. Before we get too far, what are some of the attitudes and behaviors that you work with your population that you try to help them develop or change outright or anything like that? Just throw some examples at me.
Not doing homework.
Not doing homework. So they're not motivated to do homework. And it's easy to wrap it up as a two-dimensional equation. They're not motivated to do homework. Actually, they're incredibly motivated to do something else.
Yeah, the video games.
That's right.
Video games.
Oh, yeah.
Highly motivated to play video games. I'm going to use that as an example as we go on here in just a few minutes. So behaviors aren't driven by logic. Most people understand that investing by doing homework leads to better opportunities down the road, which leads to better opportunities for careers, which leads to better opportunities for higher incomes, which leads to better cars, that sort of thing. We know this stuff in the moment. Those are one of those healthy behaviors I was talking about. In the moment, video games trump, because what emotional need is often getting met by the video games?
Success for
Sorry, Misty?
I think it's success for some of them because they actually manage to, they're so good at it that the kids, the student I'm working with it.
There's a sense of pride attached to my ability to play video games. You know, a lot of very smart behavioral scientists get together to develop these things. We're talking about video games here. If this was in the addiction services, I'm talking about VLTs. It's the same thing. It reacts the same way. Dopamine levels increase, association increases, it calms me down, takes away the stresses, and kids have stress, I don't want to tell you that. The emotions are very real. So yes, so there's a sense of pride because I can do this well. Maybe more than I can do math. What are the emotional needs are getting met by playing video games?
We get immediate satisfaction by winning the game.
Absolutely. Again, tied to that success. So self-esteem attached to it as well, sense of self-worth, accomplishment.
And escape.
Escape is huge. Escape isn't a dirty word. People need escape in their lives. Escape only becomes problematic is when it gets in the way of other things I should be doing in my life to succeed. Yeah, absolutely.
Friendship, competition.
Yeah, camaraderie. Absolutely. Playing online with a group of people across the world sometimes. I belong. You guys ever work with isolated, outcast kind of students? Yeah. That's a powerful motivator.
I was thinking pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure. Again, pleasure-seeking principle, alive and well. It's amazing that they don't go and put on their gym clothes, run downstairs, and run the treadmill for a half hour, eat a bowl of cauliflower. Our task is to help people become willing to do what is healthy. Again, healthy, don't think of it in regards to healthcare, but healthy. Homework is a healthy activity in this situation. Our job is not to get them to do their homework. Our job is to help them become willing to do their homework. There's a difference between, I used to have this framed up as our job is to help people want to do what is healthy. That's oversimplifying and certainly overshooting. Chances are I will never want to do my homework. I don't want to do my homework as a 51-year-old adult. I take work home and I have to catch up on the administrative stuff. I don't do it because I want to. I'm willing to do it to get something down the line. And yet we often phrase our encounters with people, you got to want to do this for yourself. We're asking the impossible. People aren't going to want to do this stuff. So if we can get them to be willing for a greater reward down the road, and again, that's part of the maturing process, is that tolerance for delayed gratification. In the addiction field, I'm going to make some reference back to that because that's what I know best. In the addiction field, I work with a whole bunch of middle-aged adolescents. I'm not being facetious when I say that. But the maturing level stops when the escape takes over. Because what the escape does, it stops the process of developing a tolerance for delayed gratification, and it interferes with the problem-solving skills that are developed early on in life. I no longer problem solve, I escape. And that's when it becomes harmful. Now, we all need healthy escapes, periodic breaks, absolutely. But when it gets in the way of developing problem-solving skills in life, that's when the maturing process gets hindered. So our job is to get them at least willing to do these things. Don't wait for them to like it. So we spend a lot of time not telling them the benefits of change, but asking them. Because whose voice has the greatest impact? Theirs. So I would be wasting my time telling somebody, if you do your homework today, 10 years from now you're going to be driving a Corvette. It's not my job to tell them. My job is to ask a question so they hear themselves talk about it. And throw a little empathy in there. Doing homework sucks. There's more fun things to be doing right now. If you did decide to do your homework, what do you think the benefits would be, say 10 years down the road, if you master this skill? And asking them, and as they hear themselves speak, they learn what they believe. Remember, that is the hardest part. Again, Plato, people know this stuff, but it's amazing what I forget. And somebody's frustrating me. And now I want to convince them to make a change. And finally, people are far more interested in their own reasons to change than ours. Again, that's why we ask them, what are the reasons why you would do this? And then we give them the reasons why they should be doing this or should be doing this. So let's take smoking off the table. I usually use that just because it's such a clear-cut example. Video game playing, in that situation that we talked about, from that kid who's ignoring the homework because they're playing video games. Video games, can we all agree that video games in this situation is bad? Everybody agrees?
Yeah.
Of course, and we'd all be wrong. Every one of us. Remember, my question wasn't, is video games healthy or unhealthy? The question is video games good or bad? We often equate those behaviors as bad. So I use smoking in the healthcare sector because in healthcare we have a built-in bias. Healthy behaviors are good, unhealthy behaviors are bad. In the educational setting, doing the homework, doing the assignments, lifelong learning, those things are good. The other side is bad. The challenge for me is to look through their eyes. Video games. If you ask them, is it good or bad? Don't be surprised if you get the response, good. It's awesome. I get to meet people across the world. This is something I finally found that I'm good at. You don't know the pressures that I go through at school, my bullying, there's stuff at home going on. My video games take me away from that. That is my escape. Do not even think about taking that away from me. From their point of view, it isn't bad, it is good. It's not the problem, it's the solution. But if I come out of the gate, if I come storming out of the gate as a healthcare provider, as an educator, whatever, I come out of the gate, and my viewpoint is what you're doing is bad, that's going to taint how I present myself to that person right out of the get-go. Just a show of hands, how many people here really enjoy being told what to do? And I'm not talking about those times when you're actually seeking some information or guidance or feedback. I mean that good old-fashioned, uninvited kind of stuff. You know what you gotta do? You know what you should do? Okay, here's what you gotta do. How do you guys usually react to that?
Like,
I'm sorry?
just a face. You give them a face.
Oh, they get one of those? Eric, can you get a Charlotte? No, I'm just kidding. I'll try to mimic it. Yeah, so there's the nonverbals. Others, how do you react to feeling that you're being pushed around? Defense, how would I know you're being defensive?
Because I'm basically telling you it's not bad, I'll give you I'll try to change it, and you would tell you where I'm coming from, so it's like I'm immediately telling you that, no, it's not bad, it's good.
Well, I'm getting it, yeah, but.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but. All right, others. So you have your hand up? How do I
It
know?
was actually my finger. But I didn't want to put it on tape.
Don't show that, Eric.
I don't normally do that, but I've had that response when you've tried to tell somebody something or suggested that they basically told you to go
Yeah.
away.
That was very classing it up, as we say. Yeah, people don't like being told what to do. And here's the kicker. I know I'm on the side of angels. I suspect everyone here is on the side of angels. You're doing what you do because you want to see healthier, more productive outcomes from that individual. Not for you, for them. The kicker is our good intentions don't carry the day. And they are good intentions. Whatever I'm saying is interpreted as I'm being told what to do. That is often the reaction. People's autonomy is incredibly important. People will shoot themselves in the foot a lot just to keep their autonomy. We see this in adults, I'm sure we see it in children. Autonomy is important. So one of the things that we make reference to through training and through the supervision is it's not the message given, it's the message received. So I could be saying something with a good intent, but if it's being received, they're telling me what to do. People don't like being told what to do. How many people here just love being told you're wrong? And I don't mean if you work on an exam, you're looking for feedback. I'm talking about that you're wrong as it applies to your value system. No, you need to do something about that. Kurt, whatever you're doing is wrong. Video games, no, that's a waste of time, you're wrong. That's not going to get you anywhere. You're taking who to the prom? What are you thinking? That's wrong. You're hanging out with who? That's wrong. People don't like being told they're wrong, particularly if it's something that's incredibly meaningful to them. How do people usually react when they're told they're wrong? Often, yeah, but. So there's two fundamental things. People don't like being told what to do, and people don't like being told they're wrong. Video games, good or bad? From their perception. Good. So one of the things we talk about, it's hard to argue with somebody who agrees with you. It's hard to argue with someone who agrees with you. So if you want to reduce the level of resistance, show some empathy. And agreeing does not mean that you're endorsing behavior. So So again, let's use smoking as a classic example. If I'm working with somebody who's contemplating quitting smoking, I don't jump out of the gate. What you're going to do is because what you're currently doing is wrong. How about show a little empathy? Again, just use this as an example. What are 3 legitimate reasons to smoke? Just use that as an example. I know people aren't helping, so 3 legitimate reasons to smoke.
You're addicted.
Well done. You know what? That's the one that often gets forgotten. It's an addiction.
Keep the mosquitoes away.
Keeps the mosquitoes away.
Reduce
That is the
stress.
first one I've heard of that. Hand over here.
Reduce stress.
To reduce stress. There's a perception that is a stress management system. Absolutely. It was something about social. Social is a big one. So those are 4 things. Addiction, stress, mosquitoes, and social. So that's amazing. Even in 2017, with the decades of the stop smoking campaigns and stuff like that, I think in a lot of workforces, not in healthcare, probably not in education, but there's still a lot of workforces that if an employer went to their manager or supervisor and said, I want to take 1 morning break and 1 afternoon break to practice yoga or mindfulness or Pilates, I wouldn't be surprised if the supervisor said, no, you do that on your own time. Now go have a cigarette and think about what you said. There's still that built-in acceptance of a cigarette break versus healthy breaks. So when we're talking, when we say healthy behavior is normal, it's not just the individual pleasure-seeking principle that's alive and well, or a harm-avoiding principle. There's a culture attached to it as well. We're often encouraged to take unhealthy breaks because we deserve them. We're bombarded with ads. And so if you're a child, adolescent, whose brains aren't fully developed yet, and you're bombarded with these messages, how confusing must that be? Again, a lot of very smart behavioral scientists work in the marketing field. So they're bombarded. We are outnumbered, we are outgunned. So if we think we're going to provide counter-argument to all that, we're in trouble. What we can do, what we have the luxury is actually sitting face to face and asking that person questions so they hear themselves talk about the downside of the current situation and the upside of perhaps making changes. An ad on the internet or TV can't do that. We have that ability to work face to face with somebody, and it's very powerful as long as I don't take on that responsibility of changing anybody. Harsh reality is we can't change anybody. They can if they choose to. You know, making a decision is a simple concept, but incredibly hard to do. Any questions or comments about this so far? Okay. Sometimes change is welcomed. It's not the response I was hoping for, but you're okay. I have to give you that line again. All right, sometimes change is welcomed. Sometimes it is not. Back is before we go too far, that is not my cat. This is from the internet. So sometimes change is welcome, sometimes it isn't. Just shout out your answers. A quick look at change, true or false. Just shout it out, your first response. People dislike change.
True.
True?
False.
You're going to be a kicker today, aren't you? You say false, how come?
Because I like change. I sometimes use, change is one of my coping mechanisms that I use. It's not necessarily, I don't use it as a healthy way sometimes, but if something's not going the way that I want, like I could move across the country, I could quit my job and get another one, like who only knows what I'm going to do. But I enjoy, change is an escape for me sometimes, so I think sometimes people like change.
I agree with you. Most people shout out true. I think it's more false than true. I mean, there's never an absolute. In the course of your day, how much of your time is spent in change talk? Those if only statements. If only I'd win the lottery. So it's not just me, that's good. If only I could afford a vacation. If only, if only, if only. We spend a good part of the day talking about and ruminating about change. It's not that we dislike change. In fact, we often embrace it.
I just like the work.
Right, we like the outcome, we don't like the effort put into it sometimes. But more than that, I think It's not that people generally dislike change. I think they dislike being changed. And we can talk about individual from a healthcare perspective, education perspective, but we can also talk from an organizational perspective. We are going through incredible change, and it's speeding up. There's a term called hyper change. It's not just in the educational field or healthcare field, all over. Hyper change. Hyper change doesn't refer to the speed of change. What it talks about is my inability to determine what the outcome is going to be, or predict what the outcome is. The uncertainty is one of the strongest variables to stress. So you talked about stress. Uncertainty is a huge variable that leads to stress and anxiety. So when we talk about change, it's not that people dislike change. People like change if they're initiating it, or if they can at least understand the outcome as it happens. A lot of times that isn't the case. So, but we often enter these situations with my mindset being, well, this is an uphill battle because people hate change just the way people are. Then that can color the way I present myself in an encounter. True or false? Repetitive patterns of self-harming behavior are normal. By self-harming, I don't mean the farming, the continuum, the cutting, that sort of thing. I'm just talking about unhealthy lifestyles. True, and we talked about that. That's normal. And yet, people often get the feeling that I'm abnormal because I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is why 4 legitimate reasons to smoking. There are legitimate reasons to do this behavior. That doesn't mean I'm endorsing it, doesn't mean I'm agreeing with it, but I want to demonstrate a little empathy because, again, it's hard to argue with somebody who agrees with you. So the video games. If I come out of the gate with, if you don't stop playing the video games, your grades are going to crater, and that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. Who likes being told what to do and who likes being told they're wrong?
Nobody.
I'm setting up an argument right at the get-go. Am I incorrect? Absolutely not. This isn't about being right or wrong. This is about how I present, so it's going to be heard. What if I show a little empathy? You're going through such a tough time right now, and video games are your one source of getting a break in a very hectic life. People are going to be much more willing to hear somebody who gets it. This is what it comes down to. Again, remember Plato? Nobody's falling off their chairs. Easy thing to understand. Hard thing to remember in the midst of my own emotional stuff coming up. I want them to change because my heart's in the right place. I have good intentions, and yet the message I'm giving is what you're doing is wrong and what you got to do is. It doesn't matter how big my intentions are. If that's what they're hearing, they're going to push back on that. People don't like being told. If people can be made to feel guilty or fearful enough, resistance to change will break down and they will indeed change. True or false?
False.
True, because you said that
False.
sometimes they just to get them off their back.
Guilting and shaming and scaring work like a charm. This is very true. They will change. But it's not about intrinsic desire to change. It is about getting you off their back. But this is often a default setting when all else fails. Because I just want them to change. Because now I'm hooked into the outcome. I'm not being effective unless they change. And they're not doing it through education, they're not doing it through pleading, they're not doing it through bribery. My last go-to thing is to scare, shame, guilt.
But
By golly, it works for the short term. Yes?
But wouldn't you say if you're made to feel guilty or fearful, it's like temporary and not permanent? Because as soon as the guilt or fear, if they're removed, the person probably will go back to their old ways.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. This stuff works like a charm for the short term. But there has no legs to it because it's not based on intrinsic desire. It's based on external stuff to get me off their back. Anybody here ever watch Dr. Phil?
No.
Try not to.
Try not to. Say what you will about Dr. Phil. He will come to your agency and do a lecture for $750,000 an hour. I'm only charging half that much. This is a bargain. So Dr. Phil, he uses this technique a lot because there's very few outcome studies, outcome measures. There's never any follow-up to see how it's done. But shaming and guilting, browbeating, educating, It works, or appears to, for the short term. There's very little to sustain that because it's not internally driven. But for a long time, my business, the addiction field, was based on this. There was hot seating and encounter groups, right up to the early 80s, we started to become a little more hip to human behavior. But yeah, they're a long time, and we thought for sure that people needed to be broken down to be built back up. Do you think the people that you work with, the kids you work with, ever receive guilt and shaming in their lives, make changes? Okay. So the title of this whole talk is Giving People a Darn Good Listening To. I often use the example of, you know the story about Johnny, whose teacher sends him to the principal for a darn good talking to? Well, people benefit actually from a darn good listening to. And listening isn't a passive process. Listening is active. It's predicated on asking those questions so that the person, whether child, adolescent, adult, hears themselves speak, because it's their own voice that has the greatest impact. It's their own reasons that have the greatest impact. My job is to guide the conversation. Not to confront them, not to shout them, but to guide them so they can hear themselves. So some quick definitions of MI. I'm not going to read them. It's in your packages. But it speaks to, obviously, motivational psychology plays a role in it, but also the study of linguistics. And here's the real skill part of MI. And we don't have a whole lot of time together. Remember, 2-day workshop, 6 months of coaching gets into the start date. This is a talk about MI. It's not going to be a chance to practice it. But it's a study of linguistics that has a big part of MI. It's about training ourselves to hear what we refer to as the language of change or change talk. The patterns of speech that talk about, I want to do something, so that's desire. I can or could do something about it, so that's ability. Yeah, if I did change, my grades would improve, so that's the reason kind of stuff. Or I really have to do something about this. That's need. So we use the acronym DARN. And then there's even more powerful change talk. I am going to do something about this. That's commitment. I'm willing to do something about this. Refer to that as activation. There's a plan 2. And you know what? I've already started taking small steps towards making this bigger change. So taking steps. So commitment, activation, taking steps. CAT. So we use the acronym DARN CAT. I didn't make it up, I'm just telling you. So it's the study of language and change. And this is the hard part. It's like learning a new language. And our clinicians struggle with this one all the time because they miss the change talk. And that is the gold nugget in the pan. That's what we're aiming for. And if I don't know how to recognize it, I missed it. I really want to. And what do I do if I hear change talk? Well, I want to reflect it back so they can hear it again. Yeah, maybe if I cut down on my video games, my grades would go up. So change talk, reasons, I'm going to reflect that back so they hear it again. Yeah. If you make some small adjustments in your playing time, there'd be positive outcomes regarding your grades. I take a lot of pressure off that. How can you do that? What is one small thing you could do to get there? I've been keep milking that, but I first have to be able to recognize that language of changing. The definition I like the most is this one. Motivational interviewing is a gentle conversation about change. If it's not gentle, it's not taking an MI stance. And I don't mean a knockdown argument. Has anybody here ever felt exhausted after an encounter with a student that you're working with? So just you, the rest of you, well done. Yeah, again, remember I started this talk off, have you ever had the feeling that you're more motivated than they are to make changes? That's what that's about. When I have more invested in them changing than they do. And if I get hooked into that, I become desperate. And I start to either plead or educate or try to convince them in some manner the benefits of making this change, to which they give me the, yeah, but. Because people don't like being told what to do, people don't like being told they're wrong, and it's a natural reflex to defend our positions. It's called the righting reflex. Here's the thing, whether we're healthcare, education, mix of the two, if I see something that I perceive as wrong, I want to make it right. This is why we get into business. There's nothing wrong with that. That comes from a very noble place. I want to make it right. I want to be an active writing agent in this person's life. I want the best outcomes for them. I want to help them make it right. People don't like being fixed. Video games, good or bad? If I perceive them as bad, I need to fix that. I'm at loggerheads right out of the gate. Because it's their solution, not their problem. And as I'm trying to make it right, from my perspective, their writing reflex kicks in, and they're trying to make it right. So here we go, off to the races. And I'm exhausted by the end of it. I don't think I got anywhere. That kid is so stubborn. Anybody have said that one yet? The kid is so stubborn. Here's the challenge. We use the term like stubborn. They're so unmotivated. And here's the thing about psychology. If I perceive somebody as being stubborn, unmotivated, non-compliant, we're going to use the healthcare stuff, non-compliant, or the big one, they're being highly resistant, defiant. Yeah, that's one. That's a good one too. How do you think how do I react psychologically and emotionally if I think somebody's being defiant, resistant, stubborn? My frustration comes out and I push that much harder. So I ask, how many people here enjoy being told you're wrong? I don't like being told I'm wrong either. In this situation, this kid is telling me I'm wrong. All right, let's go. I'm not wrong because I just gave the kid a yeah but. How many people here have given a yeah but? They're students. Talk about being on the receiving end. How many of us have done that without realizing it? The writing reflex is alive and well on both sides of the equation. Dr. Phil. How are we doing for time? Excellent. We're going to do a very quick exercise, just to liven everybody up here a little bit. I'm going to ask people to partner up with somebody, but before you do that, take 15 or 20 seconds. Think about something in your life that you're feeling ambivalent about. I want to, but I don't want to. And I can't stress this next part enough. Something that you feel comfortable enough talking about in front of somebody else or a group. I forgot to mention that years ago in a workshop, and somebody's idea of an ambivalent issue was, I'm thinking of leaving my husband. You laugh. We had to deal with that for a long time in that workshop. So something you feel comfortable talking about. So the common ones are diet, exercise, whatever, buying, painting the house, whatever. Something safe, something you feel ambivalent about. So just take another 5-10 seconds to come up with something. Does anybody not have something yet? If there's actually nothing real in your life you're feeling ambivalent about, make something up. That works better if it's an actual real situation. All right, now please make eye contact with somebody that you want to be a partner with.
Want to partner with your husband?
We have an
Yeah, and I'll pull a chair
If
over.
there's one group of 3, that's fine as well. Does everybody have somebody? Can I get one person from each partnership just to follow me in the hallway very quickly? Or one person from the group of 3? And bring your packets with you. You need your...
You take your pack, you should have one.
Okay, welcome back. Can I get everyone's attention, please? So very quickly, for those of you who remained in the room for this particular exercise, what you got to do is exercise. How was that experience for you?
It's overwhelming.
So I'm getting, I hated Carrie. What made you hate her the most?
She told me my clothes were finished.
Oh, that's cold. I mean, I said B is nasty, but that's true. You told me my clothes wouldn't fit. I'm not sure what the issue was. I learned a long time ago.
I phrased it really nice, saying she has a lot of really nice clothes. She wants to eat healthy. I said she has a lot of really, really nice clothes. But if she decided to continue on the path that she's on, they're not going to fit.
Yeah, I don't
Motivating.
understand. So an interesting phenomenon, even though this was a role play and having fun with it, over here, she made me feel bad. Over here,
Yeah.
nobody likes being told they're wrong, because that wasn't my intent. I have good intentions. I want you to look good in your clothes. You just righted her back. So then we get into this debate back and forth, the yeah buts. Even in a short exchange like this, how easily it happens. People only being told what to do, and people only being told they're wrong. She was mean to me. I wasn't mean to you. I was just trying to help you. It happens easy without us even realizing it. Good example. Others who remained in the room, how was that for you?
Not very supportive. You just wanted to, like, just leave.
You know what I find
Had enough of
interesting?
this.
Your demeanor is so soft, gentle, and kind. I just wanted to leave. Yeah, and people often express non-verbally how they're feeling.
Yeah, like the,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm closing off right now, I'm not telling you any more of my problems.
Right. So, well done. One thing I was a little disappointed for those who were in the hallway coming back, I didn't hear one Texas accent. That's my instructions.
Oh, really?
Do you use the Texas accent?
What you got to do is, that's Dr. Phil. Over here was kind of interesting. You think I just making up a Texas accent? There's context to it, people. Over here, what happened over here? Because you seem to acquiesce very quickly. I'm not even sure what the issue was.
I felt overwhelmed by it, yeah. It was, my issue was I didn't want to drive back to the city to do a baby shower, and she was giving me all the reasons why I should drive back, and it was just, like, in my head, like, they kind of made sense, like, they were good reasons, but at the same time, I just felt like, whoa, it's still a bit much.
Yeah, when I was walking around, the last thing you said, yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
This happens a lot. Again, this is just a real play. Yeah, I'm going on a limb here and say there's very little intrinsic desire to actually attend the shower.
No. That's not true.
So this is a classic example of this happening with healthcare a lot. People will tell me what they think I want to hear, and then I'm shocked when the next time I see them that they haven't made any changes whatsoever in their lifestyle. I don't understand. You were so motivated before. We confuse a desire to get off the back with motivation to change. They're two different things. Absolutely. For those of you who came into the hallway, how was this experience for you? How'd you like being?
I didn't like it.
You were so good at it. What did you like about it?
Well, there was no real dialogue. I was just telling her what my opinion was on her issue.
It certainly saves time, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it would. But it's not going to get me anywhere, or get her anywhere to further along.
And this comes up a lot in training too. MI sounds like it takes such a long time. It's a bit of a myth. They were saying that if you work with somebody like you have all the time in the world, chances are you're going to get quicker outcomes than if you think you only have a few minutes. If I'm feeling under pressure, then I jump out of the gate trying to shove people into change. So we can have a lot of very quick conversations again and again and again and again. It's the rocking chair. There's a lot of movement, but nobody's getting anywhere. So that thing, it seems like it takes a long time. It really doesn't, because the impetus for change is within that person themselves. So sometimes the best we do is plant a seed. I don't expect someone to have this epiphany in front of me. That, you know what, I see the light, I'm going to make some changes. Thank you, Scott. You've changed me. It doesn't work like that. People hear themselves speak, and that's what they leave with. And that's what adds to increased intrinsic desire to change. Others who came into the hallway with me, how was that for you?
It felt like I wasn't looking at it big picture, like she was bringing up other things and I was trying to just like stay on the one outcome that she had when I could have maybe like, if I wasn't doing this, I could have kind of addressed other things she was saying that may have explained like the whole, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Let's use the video game as a kind of an example of that. So, I'm sorry, what's your first name? Monica. Monica plays an incredible amount of time on playing video games. I'm working with Monica because I see that as the problem. So I meet with Monica, and that's what I'm focusing on. What you gotta do is ease up on the video game playing because it's affecting your grades. How much of my intention is actually talking about what's driving her motivation to play video games? How much time am I taking to find out what's going on in your life, Monica? What's all the stress about? What is it about video games that works so well for you? Again, it's hard to argue with someone who agrees with you. I'm not endorsing the behavior, but I'm striving to see it through their eyes. Because I can't engage with somebody until I actually know why they do what they do. So if you just want to go with it for a little bit, what is it about video games that's so much fun for you?
I'm at the other end of the store, so this is difficult.
Make it up.
No, it helps me relax. I forget about school, I forget about my teachers, I forget about the bullying. I just go on my video games and it helps me relax. That's what I like
It
about
really takes a load off for you.
it. Why?
It really takes a load off for you.
Yeah. it is.
So what's going on in your life that's causing so much stress? Or the teachers and other?
Well, the teachers are on my back for doing homework that I find stupid. I don't even know I have to do that homework. And yeah, so that's, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to hear about it. I know I owe a lot of stuff, I know I'm probably going to be failing, but I don't care. I don't see the point of going to school anyway.
So we're going to stop there. Is anybody's writing reflex starting to kick in a little bit, which says, I don't know why I should have to do all this, it's stupid, or I forget the exact words. But I felt my writing reflex started to kick on that. I wanted to defend my position that homework isn't stupid. This is, the decision you make today will affect you for the rest of your life, Monica. What happens? I'm just in an argument, I'm in a debate. And I'm just priming her up to tell me why I'm wrong. And people are influenced by the sound of their own voice more than mine, more than anybody else's. So I want to start where they're at. Show some empathy. But that takes so long. Actually, it doesn't. So that exchange was about 15 seconds. And I didn't come out of the gate telling me, what you got to do is because what you're currently doing is wrong. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You got a lot going on in your life, and it's the one thing that helps you relax. It's the solution. What's some of the downside of playing all these video games?
Tired in the morning, I won't get up.
If you had more energy, what sort of things would you like to be doing? Just make something up.
I'm thinking of the poor student I'm working with and he doesn't have many interests. I don't know, guitar maybe? Play some guitar.
So let's rewind that a little bit. What if I was the one who made that suggestion? You know what, if you didn't play so much video games, you could sleep better and you'd have more energy to practice your guitar. Yeah, but. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah.
See, but my default position is to be right. That's my writing reflex kicking in. So this is hard. It makes sense in a nice, calm, relaxed setting like this. You put Monica in front of me. My tension rises because I'm hooked into the outcome. I'm not doing my job unless they change. What a myth. That's a myth. Again, in the context of healthcare, I tell our staff all the time, you are responsible for providing the best treatment you can. You are ethically and professionally obligated to provide the best treatment you can. Your patient is responsible for the recovery. Because we can't follow them home, we can't monitor them 24 hours. We work in partnership. So for those of you who felt uncomfortable being that person, I'm glad. It scares me when I hear people say, you know what, I think I found my style. So I have this car. 10,000 imaginary points. Anybody can tell me what kind of car that is?
Toyota Tercel.
Yes, Toyota Tercel.
Station wagon.
Okay, they're imaginary points, just so you know. Another 10,000 imaginary points. You guys can't play because you already got 10,000 each. What year is that car?
86.
Very close.
84.
84. That, my friends, is a 1984 Toyota Tercel, two-tone green wagon. That was my car. I can feel the envy wafting off the crowd. Before I came to Nova Scotia in '97, I worked in the Yukon for a couple of years and I had this car. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Watson Lake, Yukon, or driven through the Yukon. Tough conditions, tough winters. I love this car. It was an all-wheel drive. This thing was a billy goat. It got me places that people's big trucks couldn't get up to. This thing was phenomenal. I loved this car. Friends and family, not so fussy about it. Did I mention it's two-tone green? Right? So I'd be hearing Scott get rid of that car. It's ugly. To which I reply, I love this car. It gets me everywhere I want to go. It's all-wheel drive. It's great on gas. I can load it up. And most importantly, nobody tells me what to do. Time goes by, things fall apart in the car, friends and family even louder now, get rid of this car. It's not going to cost you money, to which I reply, it's still cheaper to fix them than to buy a new one. It still gets me where I want to go. And still, most importantly, nobody tells me what to do. More time goes by, more things fall apart. Family and friends are very loud now, to which I reply, you might have a point. Now it's really costing me a lot of money. Now, does that mean at that second I went and bought a new car? No, I simply conceded, you have a point. I started to contemplate about getting another car. Time goes by, things fall apart, we get the idea. To get to the point where, that's it, I got to do something, I got to get a new vehicle. So I went out, Watson Lake, Yukon, and I bought the first shiny thing I could find. I ended up buying a brand new Corvette. It's a fantasy at this point, folks, I'm a social worker. So let's say I bought a brand new Corvette. I'm still in Watson Lake, Yukon, still tough conditions, and in a very short time, the Corvettes cost me even more money than the ultrasound. Let's back it up a step. Let's say instead of being impulsive, which I very much am, instead of buying the first shiny thing I saw, I go out, I do some research, I do some planning, and I decide to buy a Honda CR-V, which is still a bit of a fantasy because I'm still a social worker. But let's say I bought a Honda CR-V and I take care of it and I got a vehicle for the next 10 years. If you take the word car out of that scenario and you put the word alcohol in there, you also have my life. Friends and family start getting a little loud, you got to do something, things fall apart in your life, to which I replied, no they're not, I'm having fun, I'm not hurting anybody else, and besides nobody tells me what to do, time goes by, you get the idea. So if we're talking about change, now change isn't an event. Change follows certain stages. And my job is to recognize what stage of change that person is in regards to whatever issue we're working with. How many people are familiar with the trans-theoretical model?
No.
Anybody here familiar with the stages of change model? It's the same thing. I encourage people to refer to it as a trans-theoretical model, only because it sounds cooler at parties, but it's the same thing. So these are the stages. Pre-contemplation. Scott, get a new car. Absolutely not. Not even thinking about it. I love this car. It gets me where I want to go. And nobody tells me what to do. Contemplation. I might. You know what? You might have a point. Doesn't mean I do anything. I'm simply thinking about it. Contemplate means to think about. Contemplation is that stage. Preparation. I will make a change. Still haven't made any behavior change at this point. Everything that's happening is inside my head, between my ears. It's all attitudinal at this point. Finally, I do something about it. I'm in action. I bought a new vehicle. And I take care of it. That's the maintenance. So, regarding Monica and her video game issue, what stage of change did Monica present when we had our little exchange?
She might have got to contemplation towards the end.
Right. Yeah, because when we started this, yeah, she started off pre-contemplation. It wasn't a problem, it was a solution. I got a lot of stress, teachers, friends. This is not a problem, it's a total solution. My task isn't to get them to jump into action, to stop anything. My job is to get them thinking about it. So I first have to recognize where somebody is in regards to whatever issue we're talking about. And then my job is to guide them to the next stage. Not necessarily action. I'd have to jump over 2 other stages to get there. And yet, how often do you think I fall into that trap? Or I want people to do something different. Doing is action. So that analogy about the car and the gas, before I turn the key, there has to be gas in the tank. I first have to put gas in the tank. Monica, if you did decide someday to reduce your video game playing, and you got more sleep because of it, how would your life be different? Well, then I did spend some time practicing my guitar. As I hear myself speak, I learn what I believe. What I've done was, by asking him an evocative question, I guided Monica to talk about the benefits of change without any kind of commitment to do so. She's not anywhere near commitment. Getting her to talk about the benefits creates a little ambivalence in the situation. I tasked to get her from pre-contemplation to at least thinking about it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And this is where the 6 months of supervision comes in, which we just don't have time to do. This is relatively easy to understand. It is very hard to do. A very quick look at intrinsic motivation. We talked about the first two a little bit already. So people learn what they believe by hearing themselves speak. So in an encounter, whether it's clinical or educational or working with a student, who should be doing most of the talking?
Not you.
The student. Student. For those of you who've ever watched Dr. Phil, who does most of the talking?
Dr. Phil.
Right. It's easy telling somebody what to do. That's a very easy task. But if I'm telling somebody what to do before they're willing to hear it, all I'm doing is providing them an opportunity, whether out loud or even in their own head, like the baby shower thing. On the outside, yeah, I'll go. Inside, I hate you so much right now, Scott. People learn what they believe by hearing themselves speak, whether they're hearing it out loud or to themselves. The writing reflex, we talked about that one already. My desire to fix what I perceive is wrong. Take a little time. Understand from their perspective how this isn't a problem but a solution. They're going to be much more willing to engage with you if they think you get it. Again, this isn't rocket science. Nobody's falling out of their chair. But my own need to be an effective change agent often gets in the way. I want to help people. I got into this job. I think everybody took the jobs you have because you want to be a positive change agent in people's lives. Why won't you let me do this? Let me help you. There was an interesting study, this is a while ago already, in the UK. They did a research project with family physicians and the level of burnout in their healthcare system among family physicians. And yeah, there's the usual variables like workload balance and that sort of stuff, and lack of resources. But what they found the biggest variable, the biggest leader to burnout, was the frustration that came with working with the same patients over and over for the same issues. The thing about acute care, go back to the healthcare setting. Acute care is based on observe, diagnose, treat. If I break my leg, I don't necessarily need a surgeon well-versed in motivation underdoing. I don't need somebody to help me explore ambivalence. So, Mr. Janssen, what are some of the good things and not so good things about having a broken leg? No. Observe, diagnose, treat. That works great for acute care issues. We're talking about lifestyle behaviors, attitudes, behaviors. Those aren't acute care issues. They're coaching issues. So if I was working in a financial institution that's doing a talk, we'd be talking about performance coaching. We talk about therapy and healthcare. We talk about change agents here, education, or being an effective partner working with you. The writing reflex gets in the way. It's my desire to fix what I perceive as wrong. Start with some empathy. And that's what I tried to do with Monica. Yeah, video games helps you take the load off. You got a lot going on in your life. When do you think the last time somebody actually said that to Monica or the student? Yeah, there's a good chance never. Writing reflex isn't just with us, it's with the whole world. Parents. Again, it comes from a very caring, loving place. They want the best for their kid. Start with empathy. We don't end there. I'm not trying to support the behavior. I'm just demonstrating I get why you do what you do. It makes legitimate sense. At the same time, what's some of the downside of this behavior? They're going to be much more willing to work with you if you show that you get it. Don't stop there. It's just a starting point. How many people are familiar with the theory of psychological reactance?
No.
Why would you? I just made it up. Sounds good, doesn't it? It's a real term. I remember it, I keep it straight in my head by referring to it as the Raggedy Ann doll theory. Let's say there's this little boy or girl, and mom and dad are with them in their bedroom, and they're cleaning out this kid's closet. Way in the back of the closet, they come across this Raggedy Ann doll. The kid doesn't even know it's there anymore. It's been there for over a year, the kid forgot about it. Mom and dad pull out this doll and say to that little boy or girl, why don't we give this to the Sally Ann or Valley Village or somewhere so some other little boy or girl can enjoy it? What happens in that moment to that kid's perception of that doll's value?
Oh, we just drove her.
Skyrockets. No, that's my favorite toy, which I forgot I had for over a year. Basically, the theory of psychological reactance is if you want to make something tempting to somebody, tell them they have to give it up. Monica, you have got to give up your video games. What happens to Monica's perception of video games' value? Of course, because now it's not just a video game, it's attached to my autonomy. Or if you want to make something unappealing, tell somebody they have to do it. You have got to start doing your homework. People don't like being told what to do, people don't like being told they're wrong. This ties into that very principle. If you want to make something unappealing, tell them they have to do it. You have got to go to that wedding shower. You'll have fun. What I've done was, I'm sorry, what's your first name?
Eric.
I'm sorry?
Eric.
Eric?
Yeah.
I just told Eric, what you got to do is, because what you're currently doing is wrong. And I've also inadvertently made not going to the wedding shower look that much more appealing and going unappealing. That is a theory of psychological reactance. A classic example from a societal wide, from a macro system. What happened in the United States in the 1920s? That was before the Depression. Prohibition. It became illegal to consume alcohol. What happened to alcohol consumption in the United States in the 1920s? Went up. People don't like being told what to do. People protect their autonomy. Speakeasies sprung up all over the place.
NASCAR. They were souping up cars that they were on the cops with their moonshine.
Yeah.
And NASCAR came to be.
Is it really?
It's fine.
Okay.
That's why they're all stock cars. The cars on the highway look like normal cars until the cops wanted them, and then they look just stock off the line.
I steal stuff from everybody. I'm stealing that from you. That's interesting.
Look it up and make sure you get it all right. That's the Coles notes for you.
People don't like being told to do what to do, either individually, as a family, as a system, as a society. So I think we have about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Just a quick, how would you word the situation, the scenario you gave with the child not wanting to give up the toy? What could you say to that child instead of saying, oh, let's give it to Valley Village? What would you word, what would you say? I'm just curious because I have come across this situation.
I've come across that situation with a lot of adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'll address that, but I want to bring up one of the things that comes up all the time. This was a training session. People ask me, what would you say here? What would be the script here? MI isn't about a script. MI is a method, not a model. So I make that point. It's a way of being with someone. How you address it, the script uses, it's going to be up to you, but how you do it is important. So for that little kid, whether it's a little kid, whether it's an adult, whatever, show some empathy. Yeah, this doll is really special to you. At the same time, you haven't looked at it for a year. So we create some discrepancy between how they're reacting and the situation. You know, Monica, you want to go into engineering. At the same time, you're not following through on your math assignments. So again, based if that's what she gave me, okay? I'm just saying. So there's creating discrepancy. I don't hammer them over the head with it. I'm just showing the two sides, the inconsistency between how they present and what they want. So I don't have an exact script to say to that little kid, but empathy goes a long ways. Rather than jumping out the gate, yeah, but Eric, you haven't looked at this doll for a year. So that's my writing reflex. Eric, you're wrong. To which Eric would reply, as a 5-year-old, no, that's my doll. People express, remember this is emotional. People are much more emotionally driven than logically driven. Logically, okay, I haven't looked at it for a year. Emotionally, this is my toy.
So if we know that people don't like to be told what to do, why do we do it?
So how do I get this across in a way that they're going to hear it? This is where I wish we had a 2-day workshop. But basically, so these little demonstrations are about getting people on side, so they're more willing when I do broach this kind of stuff. So we can talk about elicit, provide, elicit. So ask permission first, because we have ideas, we have opinions, and this is what we're paid for, to be change agents. I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying stop that. I'm saying in the way in which it's delivered. How can we help them be in a position to hear what I have to say? And one of the ways to do that is to ask permission first. Elicit permission. Monica, do you mind if I share something about the video games and your life goals? So if I ask permission, 99 times out of 100 they're going to say yes. And as soon as they say yes, psychologically they're still in control. I'm not telling them. They're actually asking for it now. And again, people are much more receptive if they're asking for it. So ask permission, then provide the information, whatever we have. Everyone here has expertise, and you are ethically obligated to work with these people in the best way you can. I'm not saying stop doing that. MI is about how to decrease resistance to hearing the message. So elicit permission, then provide whatever it is that you want to provide, and then we elicit again, not permission, but the thoughts. So what do you think about that? How does that fit for you? That is just one technique. Yeah. We need at least 6 months to get you to the starting gate. Remember, this is an overview of MI. It's a good question, though. This comes up all the time.
I think the other piece too is like not coming from a place of judgment. Like when you pick up the doll and you say, I'm going to give this to charity, you're already at a place of judgment. If you pick up the doll and say, what do you want to do with this? And the child is the first person that answers that as opposed to you. It's the same as when you meet a client for the first time. You know, we might have an idea as to why they're there because somebody wrote a referral, but that doesn't mean that the client shares that same idea. So when you meet the client, like, you know, why are you keeping it?
So agenda setting. Absolutely. And yes. So again, we're healthcare providers. We use a framework of client-centered. It's their life. There's a good chance that they might have a different goal than I have for them. I want Monica to give up playing video games totally. Total absence from video games. That is recovery based on what I know. Monica might have an incredibly different idea of what getting well is all about. Yeah. Ask them. What would be helpful for you? But remembering to ask. Any other questions? We're running out of time. I would like to get through this scenario because it actually leads to the last point I want to make. I'll read this one. It's about Eric. Sorry about that. Patricia is a single parent after a very recent divorce. Her 16-year-old son Eric just started his final year of high school and has always been a good student and eager to get into housing to become an engineer. Patricia admits she has not been an attentive parent over the last year, but has now noticed Eric's grades have plunged and his mood is often sullen or agitated. Patricia learns from another parent that Eric has been drinking and partying with friends since the parents split. When you meet with Eric for the first time, he tells you, it's not like I'm the only one doing it. A lot of my friends at school are the ones dragging me on the weeknights. Let's face it, I have the rest of my life to be boring. I'll get serious about life later. I've always been able to do what I set my mind to do. My career goals have always been important, but right now is the time to play while I'm young. So before we start talking about Eric, I just want to talk about what are the 3 elements of motivation? They are priority, importance, and confidence. I just want to remember that as ready, willing, and able. The priority, whatever that change is, it has to be seen as, amongst all the priorities of my life, higher than something else. Importance is a very close cousin to priority. Importance is, typically they drag each other up. If something's important, it becomes a higher priority. And the last one is confidence. And this is the one I think, and again, I don't have anything to base this on other than my subjective time working in the field. People aren't stupid. People recognize that there's things going on in their lives that they don't like. It's not that I enjoy them, but I don't think there's anything I can do about it because I've tried so many times and I keep on failing. Why bother? So yes, it's important. Yes, health is a priority. There's nothing I can do about it anyway. Why bother? I think what holds most people back from making a change, not always, but a lot of times, is a sense of helplessness and powerless. So we work with Monica and the Erics out there who feel powerless to stop the video games, or powerless how to get to the shower. Yeah. Ready, willing, and able. So thinking about those three elements, let's go back to Eric. What do you think is missing or there regarding motivation to change for Eric? And just a hint, base your stuff on what he's telling you. So if I'll be Eric. Look, it's not like I'm the only one doing it. A lot of my friends at school are the ones dragging me out of weeknights. Let's face it, I'll have the rest of my life to be boring. I'll get serious about life later. I've always been able to do what I set my mind to do. My career goals have always been important, but right now is the time to play while I'm young. What's his priority?
Fine.
Fun. What's important to him?
Having fun.
Having fun, time with his friends. Where's his confidence level that he could make a change if he wanted to?
Pretty high.
Very high. So I'm always on the lookout. Again, this is the linguistics part of it. I'm listening for the language, for the meaning beyond the words. If I misread that, let's say I misread it and I think Eric's problem is he doesn't have enough confidence to change. I think you're wasting my time trying to buck him up. Eric is already confident. This is a question of priorities. But if I don't pay attention, I can misread what he's telling me. I can spend a lot of time trying to, Eric, buddy, we can do this. I'll help you. You can get back on track. To which I get, yeah, but I know I can get back on track. So all I've demonstrated was I'm not paying attention to him. I haven't given him a darn good listening to. And there's another question about confidence. It's a question of priority. How would you respond to Eric if Eric told you this? Start with empathy. Show me that you get it. Go ahead.
Oh, it kind of sounds like you've got, you know,
I understand that if you feel the need to be with friends and to
yeah, sounds
To
like
what
friends
they're-
are very important to you right now.
Good. So one of the things that this happens in training all the time, people try and come up with the right thing to say. And people tie themselves in knots. And I'm guessing that if this was a real life situation, you just jump in there with, yeah, right now,
Yeah.
life is short, you don't want to waste it, Eric. That's empathy. Remember, empathy is not agreeing or endorsing. I don't stop there. That's simply to decrease the usual resistant reaction I might get. Yeah, life is short, you don't want to waste it. At the same time, your career goals have always been important. So there's a discrepancy. Anyway, this is the skill part of MI. This is where the 6 months of supervision and that stuff comes in. And we are just about out of time. We never get through the whole thing. Any last minute questions or comments about anything so far? Whose voice has the greatest influence? What is the writing reflex?
Desire to fix what's perceived.
Perfect. Psychological reactance?
The boss of me.
You're not the boss and maybe you won't, but yeah. If you want to make something tempting to somebody, tell them they have to give it up. If you want to make something unappealing, tell them they have to start it. Finally, what year was my car? 223. So we covered an awful lot in a very short time. Thank you, everyone, for your very kind attention and for playing along. This was fun. Have a good weekend, everybody.
I know I speak on behalf of the whole group that was incredibly engaging, Scott. It's a complex theory in a short period of time, but I think it will motivate us to all learn more and presentation goes from theory to practice so smoothly that was really engaging. We have a little sunflower card that would help you keep at your desk to remind your contribution to our growth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.